Donald Trump has spent a lot of time criticizing you. You told me a couple years ago on air that you were afraid of what Trump could theoretically do if he ever were returned to the White House. How do you feel now?
Yeah, it's possible. Do I think he's going to start arresting comedians? I don't.
No, it's not that I've gotten old. It's that your ideas are stupid. Okay,
common sense is still common sense.
Yes, common sense is common sense, and I'm going to call it out wherever it is on the spectrum.
Bill Maher just torched CNN without raising his voice. While CNN spiraled into a full-blown meltdown over Trump, as if it were 2016 all over again, Bill Maher sat back, cool as ever, and calmly dismantled the circus. No shouting, no drama, just a heavy dose of reality. With one sip of his truth tea, Maher exposed the spectacle for what it truly is, a desperate grab for ratings dressed up as journalism. If you thought CNN couldn't get any more unhinged, wait until you hear what Maher said right to their face. Spoiler, he didn't pull punches. "I'm not going to chase every rabbit down the hole like I did during his first term," Maher said. "He's a kooky guy who says a lot of kooky things. I'm not going to pre-hate anything. I'll just wait, and when something serious happens, I'll comment on that." Right out of the gate, Maher set the tone. Calm, composed, and razor sharp. Unlike CNN, he made it clear he's not interested in turning every Trump moment into an existential crisis. He's done playing the game of overblown headlines and endless outrage. Instead, Maher called it like it is. The hysteria is manufactured, the drama staged, and he wasn't afraid to say it live on air. Sensing Maher had no interest in indulging a fresh round of Trump derangement syndrome, the host swiftly pivoted to Biden.
I'm not going to chase every rabbit down the hole like I did the first term. That's what I mean about he's not going to get my mind. He's a kooky guy who says a lot of kooky things. And I'm just not going to pre-hate anything. I'm just going to hope for the best, and then when something serious happens, I'll comment on that.
Bill Maher has long been one of the sharpest comedic minds and most brutally honest voices in American media, and in this moment, he proves it again. Watch as he gets an entire CNN panel to do a full 180 and suddenly shift the conversation to Biden. But that was just the warm-up. While most Democrats parroted the party line that Biden was perfectly fit to run, Maher stood out, almost alone on the left, sounding the alarm. He warned that keeping Biden on the ticket was a ticking time bomb. And now, that warning is aging like milk, in the sun. The same voices that once brushed him off are now scrambling to rewrite history. But Maher came with receipts, loud, clear, and impossible to ignore.
I'm writing an election book, and one of the things I just stumbled on was a monologue you gave in October 2023, in which you warned the Democratic Party of Ruth Bader Biden. You were saying the American people think he's too old. You're worried about this. You had a great line about it doesn't matter if he's a national treasure and has done great things. If you got on an airplane and you heard that Buzz Aldrin was the pilot, you'd get off. I'm sorry for botching your very funny joke. But they didn't listen to you, but you were proven correct.
What makes this even more compelling is that CNN was one of the loudest voices pushing the ageism narrative. Anyone who dared question Biden's fitness was instantly labeled discriminatory, shut down with accusations of bias. So when Bill Maher looks them straight in the eye and unapologetically defends his criticism of Biden, it's nothing short of epic. It's a masterclass in backbone, a fearless takedown that strips the mask off CNN's double standard. They weaponized ageism to protect Biden. Now they're choking on their own hypocrisy. And when the heat got a little too real for the host to handle, he bailed, quickly pivoting the conversation back to Trump.
And I felt I had standing to make that case because I had for so many years been the only person I know on television who was consistently railing against ageism. I have been saying for years, ageism is the last allowable prejudice that we can have in this country. You can always do the age jokes. You can always rail on people for being too old. And it was, as I said, a case-by-case basis. Some people at 70 act like they're 100 years old, and some people are like 40-year-olds. But this was a case, okay, where Biden was too old. Having made that case that it's a case-by-case basis, I was now saying, yes, some of those cases are that the person just is too old for the job. And he was going to be, much like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, someone who was seen in history as one who stayed at the fair too long and cost his party dearly, and he did.
Jake Tapper was clearly teeing up Maher for a fiery anti-Trump rant, hoping he'd match the energy he just unleashed on Biden. But Maher wasn't playing that game. Instead of echoing the media's usual outrage chorus, he calmly sidestepped the bait and dropped a truth bomb instead. He doesn't see Trump as the cartoon villain that CNN and MSNBC relentlessly portray. That moment froze the room. Maher wasn't there to pander or perform. He was there to speak the uncomfortable truth that no one else was willing to say.
Spent a lot of time criticizing you. You told me a couple years ago on air that you were afraid of what Trump could theoretically do if he ever were returned to the White House. How do you feel now?
Yeah, it's possible. Do I think he's going to start arresting comedians? I don't, but it's possible. Look, anything's possible with this guy. I'll put it this way. When George Bush was in the White House, it never even entered my mind. Never entered my mind that I couldn't say whatever I wanted to say without repercussions. And that's one of the great things about living in America. And we take America for granted and that kind of stuff, and maybe we can't anymore. So we'll see. But am I going to let it affect what I do? No. I mean, the day I feel like I can't say what I want without going to Guantanamo Bay, I'll just leave.
Jake Tapper was clearly expecting Maher to unleash.
Jake Tapper just doesn't quit. Once again, he lobs a setup, hoping Maher will take the bait and spiral into an anti-Trump meltdown. This time, the angle, suggesting Maher might quit comedy out of fear that a Trump presidency would crush free speech. But Maher, true to form, doesn't flinch. Calm, confident, and completely unfazed, he sets the record straight. If he ever walks away from stand-up, it won't be because of fear or politics. It'll be because, after more than 40 years on stage, he's simply ready. No drama, no victimhood, just a seasoned pro stepping off the spotlight on his own terms. That's what sets Maher apart. He's not in it for political applause. He's in it to speak the truth, no matter who's listening.
I want to ask you before you go, and congratulations again on the special, but there's talk promulgated by you about maybe you quitting the HBO show, about maybe not touring anymore. Well, you said something to Jane Fonda about thinking about that. Where are you in your career? You still got a lot of good stand-up, a lot of good jokes in you, right? Like, tell us what's next.
Okay. I am stopping doing stand-up just because I'm tired of touring. Just because I've been doing it for 40 years. I love it. Look, I love nothing more than being on stage somewhere telling jokes to strangers. It's been my entire life. It's been the most consistent thing in my life.
This moment should serve as a wake-up call for CNN. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop the relentless pre-hating and start letting facts speak for themselves. After years of branding Trump as everything from a fascist to Hitler reincarnated, what's left in the insult arsenal? They've hurled every label imaginable, turned outrage into a full-time job, and still, half the country tunes them out. Constant hysteria doesn't energize viewers, it numbs them. Eventually, it all becomes background noise. Instead of leaping, at every headline with knee-jerk outrage, perhaps CNN should try something radical. Pause, wait for a real misstep, and respond with credibility, not desperation. Bill Maher's approach proves that calm, honest critique hits harder than constant alarm bells. He didn't just survive CNN's attempted ambush, he exposed it. With quiet defiance and unfiltered honesty, he flipped the script on a network desperate to paint Trump as the boogeyman while glossing over Biden's glaring flaws. Maher refused to echo their talking points. He challenged their hypocrisy and reminded everyone what true intellectual independence looks like. He made one thing clear. Truth isn't tied to a political party, and blind loyalty whether it's to Biden or anti-Trump hysteria, is the real danger. If CNN wants to remain relevant, they'd be wise to take notes. Maher just gave them a free lesson in what integrity actually looks like.
I've been training for 40 years. I need a break. And I'm tired of the travel. I'm tired of dragging my ass out of bed on Saturday morning to go to some place after I worked so hard on real time all week. Maybe I'll go back to it. But, I have a podcast. I have a television show. I'm not retiring. And I don't know where this started about I'm getting rid of real time. They're going to have to drag me off of that show. What I was saying was that I didn't want to do another Trump term, not just because I don't think it's going to be possibly a great time for America, maybe, again, not going to pre-hate anything, but because I've already done all the jokes.
What makes this moment hit even harder is that Bill Maher isn't whispering behind closed doors. He's calling out the game live, right to the CNN host's face. No filters, no rehearsed spin, just raw, unfiltered truth. The reality is simple. Mainstream media runs on ratings, and ratings run on outrage. Trump coverage, especially the negative kind, sells. So networks double down, not always out of principle, but out of fear. Fear that if they stop obsessing over him, the audience will vanish. But Maher, he's not playing that game. He couldn't care less about clicks, algorithms, or chasing viral moments. He's not here to please a base. He's here to tell it like it is. That's exactly why people across the political spectrum are turning to him. He's blunt, unafraid, and willing to torch the narrative in real time. In a media landscape full of noise, Maher is proving to be one of the few voices still worth listening to.
Your response when people tell you that, and you must hear this a lot, that they get that you're one of their primary sources of information?
Flattered, and as it should be, is my response. I feel like people are looking for something that is not slanted. I mean, I certainly have lost fans over the years because I don't say the things that please people all the time, but that's my ultimate bond with the audience. When I lose people, it's like, okay, well, you were never meant to be with me in the first place.
Yeah.
We can't have a relationship.
No Bill Maher interview would be complete without him taking a blowtorch to the left's obsession with wokeness, and true to form, he didn't hold back. Maher has been sounding the alarm for years. The Democratic Party's fixation on identity, politics, cancel culture, and virtue signaling is alienating everyday Americans. And let's be honest, that ideological overreach played a major role in their embarrassing performance last November.
That sometimes can take it too far, or I would categorize liberal as different than woke. Woke, which started out as a good thing, alert to injustice, who could be against that, but it became sort of an eye roll because they love diversity except of ideas. And that's not really where we should be. I mean, they have a trail of very bad ideas, I would think, in wokeness.
Bill Maher made a critical point, one that many on the left still refuse to confront. Wokeness isn't a natural extension of liberalism, it's its undoing. He draws a clear and necessary line between classic liberalism and the toxic strain of woke ideology that's overtaken much of today's political discourse, and he's doing it for the younger generation, making sure they're not misled into thinking the two are the same.
Define wokeness, because I hear people use the term all the time, and it means something different to everybody.
Well, again, I think it's this collection of ideas that are not building on liberalism, but very often undoing it. I mean, 5 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was not a controversial figure among liberals. We liked him. Now they take his name off schools and tear down his statues. Really? Lincoln isn't good enough for you? 5-10 years ago, bedrock liberalism was we are striving to be a colorblind society where we don't see race. Of course, we see it, but it doesn't matter. That's not what woke is. Woke is something very different. It's identity politics. We see it all the time. It's always the most important thing. I don't think that's liberalism. I mean, I could mention so many issues like that. I remember doing that show on HBO, Comic Relief for the Homeless, and the idea then, again, among liberals, I thought was, for the sake of compassion, can we get these people off the street so they have a roof over their heads? And now it's like, how dare you try to move the homeless? This is where they live.
Common sense should be just that, common. But somewhere along the way, the woke media missed the memo. Instead of grounding their reporting in logic, facts, and fairness, they chase the latest performative trend. Whatever drives clicks, outrage, and engagement.